I have more convenience than my grandmothers ever did. More technology and labor-saving devices and health information, lots of shortcuts, and yet for years I was completely exhausted. Meanwhile, my grandmothers, they raised children, cooked from scratch, kept gardens, preserved food, and somehow still had energy left at the end of the day. How is that possible? The more I thought about it, how they lived, the more I realized that they weren't doing special things to have more energy. They weren't optimizing their hormones or tracking their protein intake. They weren't taking supplements. They simply lived in a way that made certain energy building habits unavoidable. And modern life has removed almost all of them. And not all at once. It's been very slow, so most of us just haven't even noticed that they disappeared. But the consequences are absolutely everywhere. We've got exhausted moms having afternoon crashes, needing caffeine to function, and feeling totally overwhelmed by ordinary day-to-day life. And what I've discovered is that some of the biggest things draining our energy aren't things we're doing wrong necessarily. They're things that we've just stopped doing entirely as a society. So in this video, I'm going to show you 5 completely normal things our grandmothers did every single day that naturally supported their energy, and how I've intentionally brought them back into my life as a mom of 3, homeschooling, living off grid, cooking from scratch, and often holding things together while my husband works away. Because if these habits still work in a life like mine, they'll work in yours too. And the first one has nothing to do with what you're eating, and it has more to do with when. Your grandmother never heard the phrase blood sugar crash, but she also probably rarely had one, and it wasn't luck. So here's something I don't think gets talked about enough in the energy conversation. When you eat matters almost as much as what you eat. So in my house, we eat at the same times every single day. I'm up at 6, I have a small morning protein snack, breakfast is around 8, lunch is at noon, we have snack time at 3, and then dinner is at 5 or 5:30 every day. It's not exciting, but here's what it's done for us. My kids eat well, like really well, because they're actually hungry when the food shows up, instead of grazing and snacking their way through the day and then pushing their plate away at dinner. Well-nourished, regulated kids are so much easier to parent, and that alone saves me enormous mental and physical energy every single day. But it also does something for my own body. My energy is steady. I don't get that 3 p.m. wall. I am not scrambling to figure out what to feed everyone or what to make on the fly. I know exactly what's coming, and so does my body. My grandmother never called this a strategy. It was just breakfast is at 7, lunch is at noon, whatever, supper's at 6, whatever their structure was. That was just life. The structure was the habit, and her blood sugar probably thanked her for it every single day. When you eat at predictable times, your body doesn't have to guess, and a body that isn't guessing has way more energy to give you. So you don't need a fancy meal plan, you need a rhythm. And then you just repeat it until it's just what your family does. If you're watching this and thinking, okay, I want to start actually doing something this week, not just watching videos about it, I have something for you. I put together a 3-day energy reset challenge. It's 3 days, 1 small action per day, and it's designed specifically for moms who are exhausted and don't have time for anything complicated. So the link for that is in the description. Grab it, it's free, and you can start tomorrow. Now, this next one might be the one you least expected to hear in a video about energy, and it surprised me when I really thought about it. Our grandmothers weren't just feeding their families when they needed the bread or weeded the garden. They were regulating their nervous systems. They just didn't have a word for it. Okay, so this one kind of blew my mind when I first connected the dots. There's actually solid research showing that repetitive, rhythmic, physical tasks, things like Kneading dough and weeding and knitting, even hand washing dishes, have a measurable calming effect on the nervous system. They lower cortisol. They quiet that brain chatter. They put you in a state that's basically the opposite of the stress response. And I can tell you from experience, this is completely real. When I'm out in my garden, pulling weeds, watering, just moving slowly through the rows, I wind right down. It's quiet, it's satisfying in a really simple way. There's no notifications, no decisions to make, nothing urgent. Just me doing a thing. And baking bread, specifically the stretch and fold process I use for my sourdough, does the exact same thing for me. There's just something about working with dough with your hands, slow, repetitive motions that just settles my body. Here's the thing that gets me though. My grandmother didn't do this to manage her anxiety. She did it because bread needed to be made and the garden needed tending. The nervous system regulation was a side effect, a free gift she got every single day just from living her life. And we've replaced almost all of those tasks with machines and apps and delivery services, which, yes, can save time. But we also eliminated one of the main ways the human body knows how to calm itself down. And I think a lot of moms are paying for that without realizing it at all. You don't need meditation apps. You might just need to make something with your hands. Bread, a garden, a knitting project, whatever it is, if it's rhythmic and physical and quiet, it's doing something real for your nervous system. And the more regular you can make it, the better. So here's where it gets a little sneaky, because this next one, our grandmothers didn't choose either. It was just built into the world they lived in. And recreating it on purpose has changed things for me a lot. Your grandmother's stress had a ceiling. Yours does not. And that gap is costing you more energy than almost anything else on this list. My grandmother wasn't calm because her life was easy. It wasn't. She was calm because the world's problems couldn't reach her at 11 o'clock at night. The news came once a day, in the newspaper, on the radio, or in her later years on the TV. But then it was done. The information stopped. Her brain got to truly rest. And we've never had to live with the opposite of that before, where the world's problems are delivered to your pocket every hour, all day and all night. And you have to actively choose to stop looking. I put my phone away at least an hour before I go to bed. I don't look at it first thing in the morning. I have certain parameters I have on checking it and using it. And I'll be honest, it wasn't easy to start. It felt like, I felt that pull because I was addicted. But what I noticed after a few weeks was that I just felt calmer overall, like noticeably calmer. I wasn't carrying the weight of everything I'd scrolled through before bed into my sleep, and I wasn't starting my morning reactive. My nervous system had a chance to actually be at rest. Our grandmothers had that by default, and we have to protect it on purpose. But it's one of the highest return things that I've done for my energy, and it didn't cost me anything or add anything to my day. Now, you don't have to quit your phone. You just need a version of what your grandmother had automatically. Times when the information stops and your brain gets to be quiet. Even 1 hour in the evening and 1 hour in the morning makes a real difference. So start with that. Okay, this next one is my personal favorite, and it's also the one that the pioneer women had such a smart built-in solution for. I love this detail so much. Our grandmothers weren't lazy for resting 1 day a week. They were protecting something the modern world has totally convinced us that we can't afford, and the exhaustion epidemic among moms might be partly the proof that we can't afford not to do this. So here's the detail I love about pioneer women specifically. On Sundays, they served cold meals. Not because they were tired of cooking, though they probably were, but because Sunday was a day of rest. And that included from the stove. Cold bread, leftovers, cheese, whatever they had. No fire, no cooking. The rest was built into the structure of the day, and even the food reflected it. So we do Sunday rest in my family too. And we actually do something pretty similar without having planned it that way. Sunday nights we do what we call a snacky supper. So sliced cheese, pickles, sauerkraut, canned sardines, popcorn, bits of leftovers from the week. Maybe we have some bread. No cooking, no real cleanup, just pulling things out, putting them on the table, and eating together. And other than food, on Sundays we go for walks in the woods, we take the canoe out on the river by our property, we play out on the swings, we play board games. It's family time that's unscheduled and unhurried. Not because everything else is done, believe me, it's not, but because we've decided that this time is protected, no matter what. And what that does for my mental wellness, and honestly for our family relationships, it's hard to overstate. It feels like we're not just surviving our life together, we're actually living it. And then on Monday morning, I feel different. I feel ready. I feel truly rested, and I'm more patient. Now, you don't have to call it a Sabbath or make it religious at all. You just need one day or even half a day where the production stops and you're just a person, not a manager. Plan your cold supper in advance so you don't even have to think about it. Protect that window like it's a non-negotiable, because it truly should be. And here's the last one, and I almost didn't put it on the list because it's not really a habit, it's more of a structure. But when I think about what actually makes everything else possible, this is it. Women in past generations weren't superhuman. They just weren't doing it alone for the most part, and that difference is enormous. This is the one I think modern wellness culture almost never talks about, because it's not something you can sell and it's not really a personal habit, but it's probably the most powerful thing on this entire list. For most of human history, women didn't raise children in isolation. Mothers, sisters, aunts, neighbors, they were physically close. Life happened in proximity to other people, and that meant the load got shared in ways that were just normal. You didn't have to ask for help, help was just nearby. And modern life has dismantled most of that. A lot of moms today are doing something that would have been completely unrecognizable to women a few generations ago. Running a household, raising kids, often working too, largely alone, with very little built-in support around them. And I think that's one of the most under-talked about reasons so many moms are exhausted. I've felt the difference in my own life so directly. My mother-in-law watches my kids once a week so I can have a few solid hours of focused work time. That one thing is enormous for my stress levels and my sense of being able to keep up with what my life requires. But here's the example that really stuck with me, okay? A few weeks ago, I was at a homeschool group about half an hour from home. My husband was away working and I lost my car key. And what I noticed in that moment was that I didn't actually panic, because in the back of my mind, I knew I can call my in-laws. They can get my spare key, they'll come. Now, I found the key in time, but I've thought about that moment a lot since then, because the not panicking wasn't about me being a calm person or having good coping skills. It was about me not feeling alone. And that security is its own kind of energy. When you know people have your back, you stop running on adrenaline all the time. Another example is my friend from church watches my kids when I need to run errands in town. And that means I'm not wrangling 3 young kids through every errand. I just go and I come back, they get to play with their friends. Something that would have been a whole production is just a task. So being involved in my community this way and accepting that help has changed things a lot for me. If you're running on empty and trying to do everything by yourself, that is not a personal failing and it's not a willpower problem. It's a community problem. And the fix isn't to try harder, it's to let someone in. One family member, one friend, a neighbor who knows your situation. And I know what some of you are thinking. It feels selfish. It feels like a burden. But here's the thing. Community only works if it actually flows both ways. So the mom who lets someone help her today is the same mom who shows up with a casserole when that friend has a hard week, who watches the kids when her neighbors need a break. You're not taking, you're just participating in something that keeps everyone afloat. That's not a burden. It's what people used to do for each other. So the embarrassingly small version of this is just telling one person in your life, I could use some help. That's where it starts. And you can offer help in return as well. So here's what I really want you to take away from this video. Your grandmother wasn't a different kind of person than you. She didn't have more willpower, more discipline, or more hours in the day. She just lived inside a structure that made certain things automatic. A rhythm to her meals, work that used her hands, a natural stop to the noise at the end of the day, and one guaranteed day of rest, and people around her who showed up. Most of us are just trying to white knuckle our way to energy without any of that structure underneath us. And it's exhausting because it should be. But here's the thing, you can start rebuilding it, not all at once, not with some big life overhaul, just one small thing done consistently until it becomes the shape of your day. So pick one thing from this video. Maybe it's eating at the same time every day. Maybe it's putting your phone down after dinner. Maybe it's making Sunday nights a cold supper night so you can get one real break in the week. I really recommend that one. Whatever feels the most doable to you right now, start with that. Our grandmothers proved that this works, and I'm proof that it still does. And if you want a simple, low-pressure place to start putting this into practice, grab my Energy Reset Challenge. It's in the description. It's 3 days, one small action per day, and that's it. No overwhelm. It's just a starting point, which is all you need right now. So I'd love to know in the comments, which one of these are you going to bring back? And if you want to start with the food piece, you can learn what I specifically eat to keep my energy steady all day as a mom of little kids. You can watch this video next.